What investors look for in a startup CEO. You have a great idea for your startup. You're going after a huge market investors care about, and you have real traction. Despite all of that, investors keep passing, and you can't figure out why. When the idea is strong and investors are interested, the remaining variable is you, the CEO. And that's what today's video is all about. Over time, after watching hundreds of investor meetings and working with CEOs raising funding, I've noticed 6 traits that consistently separate the CEOs who get funded from the ones who don't. I'll explain what those traits are and how investors read them. Hi, I'm Brett. On my channel, I help early stage startup CEOs like you raise money and grow your startup. So if this sounds like you, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get notified every time I release a new video. Let's get started. And let's start with Chapter 1. Chapter 1. You need to show you're resilient. I've been working with Ray since before he raised his initial $6 million in funding. Now his company is worth billions. Ray has survived several near-death experiences. Through it all, Ray's ability to be emotionally steady has been a key to his success. For example, when Ray was raising his second round of funding, he received a very good, very fair term sheet from a very well-respected investor. However, one of his existing investors blocked the round from going through. There was no good reason for the investor to block the funding. For over a week, Ray tried everything he could to convince the investor to relent. He asked his other existing investor to help. He asked the investor's attorney to help. He tried everything he could think of. Nothing worked. The new investor gave Ray until midnight on Monday night to fix the problem. Ray didn't panic. He met with the investor Monday evening. At 11:50 p.m., Ray texted me that the investor signed the term sheet. It was Ray's steadiness that allowed the deal to go through. Investors aren't looking for perfection. Investors are looking for you to stay calm while all hell is breaking loose around you. Now let's move to Chapter 2. Chapter 2. Are you coachable? One of the great things about being an entrepreneur in residence was I saw lots of CEOs pitch investors. And I got to see how investors reacted in real time. For example, 2 CEOs pitched the partnership back to back. Both companies had businesses going after markets we were interested in. Gary challenged the first CEO about the defensibility of his company's position versus the competition. The CEO started arguing with Gary. He dug in and refused to acknowledge the validity of Gary's question. Then Gary asked the second CEO a similar question. The second CEO started by agreeing with the premise of Gary's question. Then he provided a detailed explanation of why it wouldn't affect the success of his company. In the debrief, the partners raised concerns about working with the first CEO. However, the partners were comfortable with the second CEO. The second CEO showed he was coachable. It wasn't that he agreed with Gary, it was that he listened to what Gary had to say. The result was the second CEO received a term sheet and the first CEO didn't. Now let's move to Chapter 3. Chapter 3. Are you self-aware? So, we've gotten to know each other well, and you're not very self-aware, Erwin said to me. He was explaining that my lack of self-awareness was why his fund was passing on investing in our company. About 1 month later, my team and I were meeting with Raul of Donald Ventures. It was the final meeting before he would present me with a term sheet. Raul asked me, "What am I going to hear about you that your references won't tell me?" I had learned from my experience with Erwin. I said, "You're likely to hear that some people might say I'm difficult to work with." Raul showed his notebook to the 2 associates he had brought with him. I had obviously confirmed what his diligence had revealed about me. Shortly after this, we received a term sheet from Donald Ventures. Investors don't expect you to be perfect. No one is. However, investors do expect you to know your weaknesses. Now, let's move to Chapter 4. Chapter 4. Do you own your mistakes? He's a first-time CEO, Gary said. He's going to make mistakes. As you can see, investors don't expect you to be perfect. This is a running theme today. However, they do expect you to own your mistakes. For example, Cooper said to me, "My investors are really angry with me because I missed my revenue number for the quarter. They asked me why I missed. I said it was the sales VP did a bad job of forecasting revenue, and that seemed to make them even angrier." Cooper had made the classic mistake of throwing someone under the bus instead of owning the problem himself. Here's the deal. You're the CEO. Every mistake your company makes is your fault. If investors see you don't make mistakes, how can they trust you to fix them? And if they don't trust you to fix problems, they won't fund you. Now let's move to Chapter 5. Chapter 5. Do you have integrity? Jake's story is one of the saddest I know. His company was growing, and he was raising his next round of funding. After the funding closed, Jake's new CFO performed a routine audit of the financials. The CFO found many of the orders were being attributed to one company. Something looked wrong. The CEO determined the company was a shell company set up by Jake's wife. Just like that, Jake was fired, and the assets were sold for pennies on the dollar. When Jake told me what happened, he didn't understand the problem. He said the customers and the revenue were real. Jake had shown he lacked integrity. You are going to be under immense pressure, and the pressure is unrelenting. Investors need to know with 100% certainty that you will always be truthful. Now, let's move to the final one on our list, Chapter 6. Chapter 6. Does your ego get in the way? Make no mistake about it, you need a massive ego to start a company. Starting a company is completely insane. So you need ego to believe that you're going to be that one company that somehow overcomes the odds and succeeds. However, your ego can destroy your startup. Here's how. If you believe that you and you alone have all the answers to every question, then you stop listening to the people around you. For example, I worked with Henry. Henry was never wrong. He would have meetings with his teams, but he'd never take their guidance. The result was the startup failed, and that's why ego can kill you. It's a balancing act. You need ego to get started. However, you need humility along with ego so you listen to the ideas of the people around you. Investors are not expecting you not to have ego. However, investors are expecting your ego not to distort reality. And once investors believe your ego is distorting reality, the risk becomes too high. Now, if today's video resonated with you, then please hit the like button right now. One final thought, investors know you're going to be tested. If you have a conversation with any startup CEO, and the CEO is being honest, the CEO will tell you they've navigated crisis after crisis after crisis. Investors are trying to figure out how you will handle these crises before they write you a check. Will you keep your integrity? Will you own your mistakes? Or will you handle those moments the way investors expect a CEO to handle them? Now, if you want to build a pitch that gets the details right, then join me in Zero to Pitch. It's where startup CEOs like you create the first draft of a pitch investors actually want to see. Inside Zero to Pitch, our free community, you get the structure and support to take your pitch from idea to draft so you can finally see what's working and what needs to be improved. Scan the QR code to join. Finally, if you want to fix your pitch and build a company investors will trust, watch the free 20-minute training over my left shoulder. I'm Brett at brettjfox.com. Thanks for watching today. Take care. Bye.